Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden. It is Thursday, April the 11th, and this particular podcast, our EKN Debrief of the 2019 United States Pro Kart Series opener, the Southern Grand Prix at Ocala Grand Prix in Florida. It's episode 46 of the debrief as we continue to work our way now into the second quarter of 2019. The end, essentially, of our dual weekend double-double. David Cole, before I introduce our presenting sponsor for this particular episode of the debrief, that was a pretty long stretch. An extra weekend for me. I started, of course, at the race, the opening round of the Road to Indy program in St. Petersburg. But dude, we were on it for a couple of weekends in a row.
It's still going. I don't think we are done working until Saturday when we are able to put our feet back up and watch a little Masters this weekend.
A lot going on this weekend. We'll definitely be watching some Masters. I'm going to be watching IndyCar at Long Beach. Actually, I won't be watching it because we don't get it in Canada, so I'll be listening to my buddies at the IndyCar Radio Network. But yeah, it was a tough run. We knocked out two races each weekend for our dual weekend double-double. David, of course, in Florida last weekend for the opening round of the USPKS. I was at the finale of the Challenge of the Americas in Sonoma. We'll have that debrief. We're going to record it tomorrow. Lots going on, as David said. We do have a little bit of a break in the action until we head back out on the road in the SuperKart USA Spring Nationals in Utah. But a lot of great content coming out here, folks, on the EKN Radio Network between then. So make sure you downloaded the app because we got a lot of great stuff coming. Today's EKN Debrief, again, episode number 46, presented by CRG Nordam. If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. After years of independent American importers, CRG Nordam is now managed directly by the factory and run out of their state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and they're serious about success. If you're ready to step up to the next level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too. All right, David Cole. Obviously, with our dual weekend double-double, you and I haven't been at the same racetrack since the Winter Nationals for SuperKart USA. So I'm here to kind of run, I don't want to say back up, because you're really going to quarterback today's action because you were the one that was trackside. I'll do tomorrow's recording of the Challenge of the Americas finale. I'll quarterback that one. But let's just say this. Obviously, I can comment knowing the numbers, knowing all this input that I got from you, following what you were doing as well on all our EKN Trackside Live stuff. Just a really, really strong start for the USPKS this year with big numbers down in Florida. It's really, you and I think we're happy when we see good numbers across the board. I don't care what program it is. We want to see people racing. We want strong series. And you guys, USPKS, what a great start to the season.
It was a great start to the season, and it was probably the biggest number they had since the beginning of 2016. So to be able to start out that strong, building that momentum, I think really what it boils down to is the fact that there's only three races, three events for the series in 2019. So that helps start staying off on the right foot and gets people motivated to be part of the program. Not to mention the prize package that they put out together with probably close. I think they said $90,000, including a number of prizes throughout the weekend, cash prizes for the first time in a while, and of course tickets to the IME International Final in France.
Interesting too, David. Looking at some of the programs we have right now. If you stand back and take a step back and look at the landscape of karting, we're kind of in like a manufacturer-driven time, right? There's IAME classes. It's all IAME over here. It's all rock over here. The road tax is coming back. After, Dave, you've been doing this with us now for 15 years, and we've seen the kind of, the evolution of the sport when we had all the tag categories at one point, all the engine manufacturers could play together. Well, now we're separated a bit, so, it's kind of more pure categories with one manufacturer at the programs. USPKS, of course, essentially an all-IAME program. Even with that kind of, uncertainty to a certain extent from some people, we do have stability in the sport right now. the SCUSA Pro Tour, into its 10th year. Same goes for the Challenge of the Americas. Now they've made an engine change, but again, stability with that program. Same goes now for USPKS. It's hard to believe that this is actually the 7th season of the USPKS.
It is the 7th season. I think when you're talking like that, you're talking about just it's almost a type of a easier format, easier structure for people to understand. When we had multiple engine categories, it kind of threw people out that were new to the sport, and for those who were new to the sport, it wasn't as welcoming as it is with, hey, this is the engine package you run, this is what everybody is running type scenario that we are in right now. So that kind of helps the stability of our sport, as you said. But again, it also means that the manufacturers are very focused on promoting the engine packages that they do provide, and we're getting a lot of support from those manufacturers.
Yeah, agreed. And it's funny you said that, David, because it's interesting because you think about somebody who came into the sport. Now, we've been doing it a long time, so it's not really a big deal to us. But back in the tag days, think about somebody coming into the sport, and maybe they've done motocross or whatever. They look to come into tag, and immediately, well, which engine do I buy? Is this one going to be good for this racetrack? So I don't want to buy it. I don't want to invest in an engine and have it not be the best one. And I'm always saying that the engine's the reason why. That's a good point, because we do have that stability now with the engine packages, and it's more simplistic when somebody does come in. They know that they're going to have the same engine as the driver beside them. Now, overall, let's talk about the fact that you've kind of been you've been the bringer of rain, David. Everywhere you've gone, there's been rain. And, watching what was going on down there, I'm like, God, maybe David's not going to get any rain this weekend. Everything's good. It's warm temperatures. And then I see on Facebook, you guys got hammered with hail. It wasn't going to end, was it?
Well, the streak continued early Friday because we woke up to a wet ground. So automatically I was 5 for 5 on events in 2019 that included rain.
Yeah, but was it actually raining at the track? That was it just wet?
Well, it had rained in the early hours of the day Friday.
Right.
So
I'll let you go on
technically, it had rained at the event that I was at before we even got on track. Now, mind you, I got there a little late because I had to throw in some Waffle House trip. So when I was there, yes, everything was dry and everybody was on dry tires. And believe me, the humidity just took away all that moisture and put it up in the air and made it really sticky all weekend long. But it was that Saturday afternoon storm cell that moved in with just 2 races left in the main event rounds that produced strong winds, heavy rain, and actually hail as the sun was shining towards the end of the cell moving over us. So it was that 30-minute, I think it was about 30 minutes of that storm cell moving over us. It was a weird change in weather from the time it hit us to the time it left. And
did you guys break? Did you just call put it on hold for 30 minutes?
It was the class on track was K100 Junior, and it was on hold due to lightning in the area.
Oh, copy.
And it started raining, but it was really the lightning that made them throw the red flag because again, it's just like any other sport. You can't be out in the elements when lightning and thunder are coming. And then so finally you take a look at the radar and it's like, okay, yep, let's get everybody off the racetrack. It's gonna come. It's gonna hit us hard. So that's when that was the reason for the red flag.
Copy. At the start of this particular segment, as we do the overview of the opening round of the United States Pro Kart Series here on the EKN Debrief, of course, episode number 46. I mentioned great numbers, David. Let's have a look at those numbers because just across the board, double digit in every category. The X30 Pro able to actually hit that 30 mark. Nothing to the point where it was 40 something karts, but just really strong numbers across the board. The class structure, which I think is really good too.
I think 140 is a magic number because that would be about 20 per category. And that's essentially what you want to see when you're racing, at least 20 drivers in your class. And we only had 2 classes that didn't hit the 20 mark, with X30 Masters at 15 and then Micro Swift at 17, but both had solid numbers. Micro actually up 3 from last year, and Masters only down 2 from last year. But the quality of drivers in both those categories really stepped up this year. But like you said, I think the highlight was X30 Pro getting back to that 30 mark, which we saw for a number of events throughout the series hit. And then all of a sudden it dropped down to nearly almost 10 to 15. And now it's gotten back up to that 30 mark. You
mentioned that 20 is that kind of magic number, because once you hit 20, you let 10 rows of carts, you feel like you got that solid group. 30 is that next one, right? At 30, I'm not mistaken, I don't know if we have it right now, but in the driver rankings, I know that when I first did it, 30 was the number that I used for a kind of a full field at the start, because when I first started doing it back in 1999, the driver rankings, because that for me, that was okay, 30 to 32, man, that's a full grid. Now, back then in the 90s and 2000s, we weren't thinking about 44 carts on a class. Like, people look back and say how great it was back in the day, and yeah, it was fantastic. But we those at the SCUSA Pro Tour races at WK Constructors Championship, we didn't have 30 carts. There was probably 24 to 26 to 28. That was a pretty good field. So to see 30 there strong and interesting, David, as you said, only one class, and that's X30 Masters. Only one class went down from last year. Every other class increasing. And as you said, Masters only down 2. So do you see a bounce back? I don't say a bounce back, but do you see more Masters drivers coming to play, you think, for the next round?
I think it was just a few locals that decided not to race this year, because it was the same players that we saw last year with the Carapolettis, Laurentiu Mardan with the Techno Group, Scott Kopp came back. Scott Roberts was there, so there were a lot of the same players there. I just think it was less locals this time around. So we'll see what we get at GoPro, but either way, I mean, those 15 drivers, any one of them had the ability to win.
Solid stuff for the opening round of the USPKF. There's your overview. David kind of giving us a scoop on the weather. We talked about some numbers. When we get back after this break, we're going to jump into the paddock pass. David, of course, taking some time after Waffle House to work his way through the paddock. We'll chat about that, and he'll give us some insight into what he heard trackside when we get back here on the EKN Debrief.
The shift is on to a new brand and a new way of thinking. Mad Old Nut Racing and Croc Promotion USA are focused on changing the paradigm when it comes to race teams in this sport. And the goal is to support dedicated young racers by giving them the tools and opportunities to succeed. Originally born as Mad Croc, the new branding is Croc Promotion, and Armando Fellini's product continues its dedication to quality and innovation. Croc Promotion USA is the American importer and distributor, and Mad Old Nut Racing is the official race team. We're ready to attack in 2019, and our race results speak for themselves. AJ Myers swept the first 4 Winter Series shifter kart races of the year, and Andrew Bedozzo continues to assert himself as an emerging player. Croc Promotion has momentum. Dedicated and talented young drivers, supported and mentored by team owners who know business and who are passionate about karting. That's Croc Promotion USA. That's Mad Old Nut Racing. Search for us on social media and give us a follow. In a sport where the difference between winning and losing is measured in hundredths of a second, you can't afford to leave anything on the table. You invest in the best equipment, the lightest components, and top-of-the-line data acquisition systems. Anything to find one more tenth, right? I'll tell you right now, the best investment you could ever make is in yourself. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the new state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy uses the very best equipment, Burrell Art Karts. They offer half-day, 1-day, 2-day, and 3-day clinics. They have a one-on-one student-to-instructor ratio, and they will design a customized curriculum for each student. Alan Rudolph is one of the most respected people in the sport, and he has nearly 20 years' experience training drivers, including Chase Elliott, Neil Alberico, Austin Versteeg, and Sabre Cook, and rising stars like Pietro Fittipaldi. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Start off your season with a driver tune-up. Tune up your season with some driver coaching. Or get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. For more information, visit speedsportsracingpark.com/racing-academy.
Welcome back to episode number 46 of the Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. David Cole quarterbacking our review of the opening round of the 2019 United States Pro Kart Series, the Southern Grand Prix, of course, taking place in Florida at Ocala Grand Prix. Going to jump now into the paddock pass where David will give us some of his insight into maybe some new drivers running for new teams, some of the stuff we saw throughout the weekend. This edition of the paddock pass presented by Comp Kart. Since 2005, J3 Competition has captured major victories and championships on and off the racetrack, redefining the industry with each move. The company took its unparalleled knowledge and brand recognition and developed its own chassis line, the Comp Kart. The CIK-FIA homologated brand has been winning ever since. Visit j3competition.com for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. First time I've had to read that one, David. Good to have Comp Kart on board with us now. These reads. I should set you up for some of these reads, but I don't think you do it. You said before you wanted me to do it, right?
I'm not much of a writer and a reader.
Oh, good, buddy. Great to have J3 Competition at Comp Kart on board with ekartingnews.com. And I was in a couple of conversations out in Sonoma and saying it's funny. We have great support from the industry. There's a lot of fantastic partners that we have. And I just said to somebody, there's so many out there there are a lot out there that still don't support EKN, don't do a marketing program with us. And my mind was like, but if they did, there's just so much more we could do. You know what I mean? There's just a lot more we could do if we had more partners. So it's just that's a business side of my head spinning around.
I think I had a similar conversation this past weekend as well too.
Well, we have so many ideas and stuff we'd like to be able to do, but it's all about manpower and equipment and we keep building slowly. We've come a long way in 20 years after launching Shifter Card Illustrated, and we went through a bunch of magazines, of course, onto the websites, and now into the EKN Radio Network. We're going to play with some video pretty soon. We've been doing some of the Facebook Live stuff, but it's evolving. And again, just the support that we get from companies like CRG Nordam, who is our presenting sponsor for this particular broadcast, from Comp Kart and J3, having them come on board, such a almost a storied name, right? They've been around for so long now. It's always good for you and I, David. We're very, very grateful for any kind of support we get from the industry. Speaking of industry, you walk through the paddock. What are some of the stuff? What were people talking about at the paddock at the USPKS opener?
Well, talking about industry members, you looked at the paddock there, and there were a number of teams there that had big tents and a number of drivers underneath them. CRG Nordam, obviously being a notable one, committing to the 2019 series. They had 7 drivers under their tent. Nitro Kart again, filling up the micro and mini categories with their chassis, along with the junior categories as well, with their new full size chassis. Kart Sport North America again there with a number of drivers there racing with the Kart Republic brand. And of course, Franklin Motorsports, who's been a big supporter of the USPKS since it began, and Merlin Nation there. So a number of big tents there, but also a number of privateers still racing there, and some of the smaller teams that were on hand to battle and be among the over 160 entries there on track. That's
awesome. Overall, I probably could have talked about it in the overview, but it's good for the paddock pass. Your thoughts from where you were? We comment a lot that we're probably, other than the staff, the officials, you and I, when we're trackside, are probably some of the only people that actually watch every race. So you're able to give us kind of an overview feel. What was the racing like overall?
Well, as we know, Ocala is kind of like the bull ring. It's like the Bristol of karting.
It is. That's
and
true.
It has very close quarters, and you're constantly turning the cart. That one lone straightaway is not very long. And even the short shoot from turn 3 down to turn 4 it doesn't give you very much time to to relax. So you typically see a little bit more of the bump and run. You see a little bit more side to side contact, or not even contact, but just side by side racing, going from hairpin to hairpin and such. But overall, the racing was very clean. Again, pushback bumper in effect. So starts, didn't see too many issues. We had one start that was actually a red flag due to a driver going over. Emmo Fittipaldi actually turned over, but was able to walk away along with William Cox on Sunday. He was involved in a flip as well. And something I still need to kind of review and look at, but I was told that no matter what happens, anytime a cart is flipped over at Ocala Grand Prix, they have to pull out a red flag. And that's something I don't think was included in a number of other events. So I don't know if that has to do with any of the situations that have gone on at tracks in Florida, or what the situation is, but something that we'll definitely have to investigate a little bit more, because again, these incidents were something that, okay, you just pick up the cart and move it over, and the driver was already up and away, but yet red flags came out for both these incidents.
Bring up the Florida point, that's definitely a possibility, but I'm sure you'll dig that in. What about race format? I think they made a change to race format this year, didn't they?
Yeah, the past 2 seasons we saw the Saturday event show with 2 heat races and a final, and then Sunday being a pre-final and final format. Well, the qualifying pre-final and final format went into effect for both days rather than just on Sunday. So it wasn't, nobody really talked about it. Tim,
I was going to ask you, was that a talking point?
No, not really. Tim Coyne brought it up to me because we bounce around to all these different events, and they have different point structures and formats that you just kind of, okay, this is my schedule, and I'm kind of going off of that. But he made a point to mention it to me. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm like, it's about time you guys did this. And so it's just, when you have that pre-final final, as we know, being there throughout every session of every weekend that we go to, it allows for more laps to be on track, and it allows for less downtime. And that it's that downtime that makes events seem longer than they really are.
People never take into account the warm-up laps and the cool-down lap. Right? It's just like, we'll give you this amount of time. Well, remember, drivers are cooling down, and you got to do it after every race. Another pickup, right? If there's a card off, other than one pickup, it's 2 or 3. So yeah, we've seen a couple of series kind of tighten things up a bit, going from the heats to the pre-finals.
Yeah, and again, it provides for longer races, especially with USPKS. They love putting laps on these guys, and I mean, a pre-final for Masters was 18 laps. I mean, some of these guys looked a little tired after the pre-final, let alone the 20-some lap final that they had.
We did 15 and 22 at Sonoma. Now, as you said, it's more of a smaller track at Ocala. We did 15 and 22 at the Challenge of the Americas race at Sonoma. And when I was on the racetrack, you're hammering around there. And I haven't driven in a long time. Man, they brought that halfway flag out, and I was, wow. All right, let's do another 8. Let's go. So yeah, I like the longer run, and Ocala's busy, right? That's what you said too. There's not a lot of chance to break at Ocala. I think it's a pretty physical racetrack with the double hairpins, and it's a busy racetrack.
Busy for sure.
Hey, what about cash? What about cash, David? Like, you mentioned something about, obviously they kind of brought some money back in for the X30 Pro and the X30 Junior. When I was talking to Tony Tesoro from CRG Nordam down at the Texas Pro Kart Challenge race at Denton, that was one of the things that I think probably helped bring CRG back a little bit, was the fact that they were rolling cash out for the pro classes.
Yeah, before the series had cash prizes, but again, the numbers weren't quite there over the last couple of years, so they just did regular prizes at the end of the year for the championship. But now they're bringing back the weekend prizes. 4,500 in X30 Pro and 4,500 in X30 Junior. So 2,500 to the winner in both categories, $1,250 for second place, and $750 for third, along with a brand new set of MG tires for all 3 top finishers on the weekend. So 6 sets of tires total, plus the $4,500 in cash. It's a lot per weekend. It's something we had before back in the day when it was X30 Pro and Yamaha Pro getting the cash at the end of the weekend. So they brought it back, but they're using X30 Junior as the second cash money category.
Yeah, pretty impressive. $2,500. That's a nice check at the end of the weekend. That's pretty solid.
Well, yeah. Austin Garrison, who was able to take away one of those checks, was very happy as he's getting a new sound system put into a boat. So that'll go towards that.
Really? All
well,
right.
It's not going to go back to racing. Come on. All these guys who win money, it never goes back into racing.
I'm surprised CRG Nordam didn't grab that. Hey, you're our driver. You got to give us we'll give you a cut when it's all said and done.
Well, we'll see we'll talk to Tony when we get to Utah and Austin. See what kind of deal maybe Austin has to buy dinner the rest of the year. I don't know.
Probably take everybody to Waffle House and drop, $75.
Hey,
nothing wrong with that though.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
There's nothing wrong. Folks, there is your Paddock Pass insight from David Cole. Again, Paddock Pass presented by Comp Cart. After this next break, it's time to start heading into the race report. David will give us a class-by-class breakdown of who was able to stand on top of the podium, who was able to make it to the actual awards ceremonies at the end of each day of competition. Opening round of the USPKS from Ocala will continue on this edition of the Debrief.
Joining the Rawlson Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and former Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. Rawlson Performance Group is setting a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in the IAME X30 categories. We have the largest trackside OTK inventory, providing parts to racers and teams at all the major events in North America. RPG can also offer multilingual support, as we have French and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. With over 35 years of manufacturing experience, Precision Karting Technologies is the leader in American-made components. We produce high-quality products, led by our full line of chromoly and mild steel axles. Metric or imperial, standard or custom, we have what you need. Collars, keys, bearings, we're the source for axle components in the USA. We're not just axles either. At PKT, we can manufacture motor mounts, hubs, brake rotors, and even GoPro mounts. We're also the choice for axle and chassis straightening. We've designed a dedicated table for the sole purpose of straightening and laser aligning your chassis. If needed, we have the capability to cut, replace, and weld portions of your chassis as well. Big crash bent your frame? Send it to us. Broke a spindle yoke off in a wreck? We can replace it. You don't need to toss that expensive frame in the trash bin. We can fix it. We can repair and straighten chassis, and we CNC machine the finest karting products in the country. With over 70 dealers throughout the US and Canada, it's easy to choose PKT. Family owned and operated, proudly made in the USA. PKT. What's in your cart?
Welcome back to episode number 46 of the EKN Debrief, again here on the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden alongside David Cole, who is quarterbacking our review of the opening round of the USPKS, the Southern Grand Prix at Ocala Grand Prix in Florida. We're going to jump now into the race report presented by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, tillet seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event, to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. You mentioned David, Franklin Motorsports, a big supporter of the USPKS over the years. Let's let you have at it now. You've got we got 4 classes in our first segment here, 3 classes in the second segment, 7 in total. Have at it, Haas. Let's go. X30 Pro.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Austin Garrison was able to walk away with the $2,500 check for most points on the weekend. Part of that was due to the fact that he came out and won the opening round on Saturday. The day was actually dominated early on by Colin Warren. The local Florida driver was solid in qualifying and won the pre-final after holding off Brandon Jarzakrak early until Jarzakrak dropped out with a flat tire. So that dropped him out of contention. That moved Austin Garrison up in the order, and he pounced early and got ahead of Warren early on in the final and drove away to victory. Warren actually fell back to 4th early on, which allowed Jake Venberg to move up to 2nd, and then Colin Daly, the original Jamaican sensation, moving up into 3rd, his first podium finish. Both, I think, Venberg and Daly earning their first podiums at the USPKS.
So what about Jarzakrak? He has the trouble in the pre-finals. As he worked his way through, again, 30 drivers in the field, right? So he probably started way back, 30th or 29th, whatever. How far back did he get?
Yeah, Jarzakrak, the flat tire in the pre-final, started 24th in the main event and was able to work his way up into 10th. So.
All right. How about Sunday?
So we moved over to Sunday, and it was senior rookie Matthew Dunkovich, which on the Kart Republic for Kart Sport North America, who set fast time in qualifying. But again, Warren was able to get a better jump on the outside of the front row and drive away to the win in the pre-final. But again, challenged by Garrison this time in the pre-final as the two swapped for the lead at the end, but Warren came out on top. But neither of them were able to come out in the final as the victor, and it was Zach Hollingshead, last year's Sunday winner, who shot through the field, shot through both Garrison and Warren, took the lead, and then was able to hold off a hard-charging Josh Green for the victory, with Xander Clements coming up with fast lap of the race and driving up to 3rd, earning his first podium in the X30 Pro category.
Nice job for Xander. That's solid.
Yeah, it was a little bit of last lap, last corner battle between him and Warren. Xander was actually as we said, was the fastest driver on the track and dove to the inside of Warren going through that carousel. And Warren didn't want to give, and neither did Xander, and the two kind of made contact. So Warren kind of got shuffled out into the marbles. He continued on and was able to finish towards the tail of the top 10. But, again, a good performance by Hollingshead. And one interesting note was Garrison won last year on Saturday aboard the Fullerton. Hollingshead won last year on Sunday aboard the Tony Kart. This year, Garrison won aboard the CRG. And then this year, Hollingshead won aboard the TB Kart. So both drivers winning both events, both days on different chassis.
That's weird, isn't it?
It's very weird.
Somehow. That's weird. They both win the same days the next year on different chassis. That's pretty cool.
It's not something you see.
I want to make a comment because I found this interesting. I want to give it a little bit of an update. Of course, I was out at Sonoma during our dual weekend double-double. I'm posting my results. You're posting your results. You were a bit ahead of me, of course, 3 hours ahead of me. So as I'm getting things going there early. I was racing, so I was at the track probably more early than we normally are. But I saw them, when I was watching your stuff, when you're posting stuff on Twitter and Facebook, the immediate results, I saw Matthew Dunkovich, and I kind of took a double take. I'm like, whoa, there's a bunch of stacked talent. There's a lot of talent in that X30 Pro class. Pretty impressive for Dunkovich to lay down a big lap like that. How did the rest of his day kind of roll out? Because obviously, kind of shook things up a bit going P1 on Sunday morning.
He's. I think I keep giving Jarzakrak a little nudging because he's kind of getting his pupil there a little bit better than he is on a couple occasions. But no, Dunkovich just kind of had a bad start at the end of at the start of the pre-final and got shuffled back and ended up finishing in the 8th spot. And then in the main event, still was among the top drivers and ended up finishing 5th. Behind Garrison, so 1 spot ahead of Jarzakrak. So again, we can kind of rub it in on Jarzakrak that he's doing a little too good of a teaching job.
That's right. Now, interesting too, David, and obviously looking at your notes and kind of the results that you posted out there. neither of the winners able to go, able to get back on or get on the other podium. Garrison's not able to get on the podium in race number 2. Hollingshead wasn't on the podium in race number 1. Kind of changed things up a bit in the points, right? No one able to really jump out hugely out front.
Yeah, 6 different drivers on the podium on the weekend in this category. So something you don't really ever see at events, especially in the X30 Pro category. But as we said, points wise, Garrison coming out with a $2,500 payday, earning the most points on the weekend. Hollingshead was able to move up into the second spot, and he trails by 45 points to Garrison, with Warren ending up 64 points back in third. So, but again, you take a look at the top 10 in the points. Any of those guys are capable of winning, especially when we go to GoPro. And you can be assured that Dunkovich and Jarzakrak, and again, Garrison, who was fast there last year as well, are going to be in the mix along with the other drivers.
Is there a drop? Is there a drop in calculating the finals for USPKS?
This is like the 8th different series, so I'll have to go back and look at.
I don't know for sure.
Because I think it's changed. To be honest, I think last year they'd counted all 6, but I got to go back and look.
I love it. I understand that, David. I totally understand it. All right, so there's X30 Pro. Big wins for Austin Garrison and Zach Hollingshead. David, let's move to the X30 Junior class, another one, the other category, with $4,500 up for grabs at the end of Sunday.
Yes, they do count all 6, by the way.
There you go, David. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Well, I like that.
Okay.
I like that as a 6-race series. I understand having a drop because people don't want to not come because of the last race. But, man, you know what? We're talking 6 races, 3 weekends. Get it done on every race. You never know what's going to happen. I like that.
Yep. So we'll get into the KA100 senior category now.
You want to go them next? You don't want to go junior?
Oh, sorry. Yep. I skipped over that. Yep. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm here for you.
So Chloe Chambers was able to set fast time in qualifying. Again, we saw her at the WK event the weekend before that. Knew she was going to be quick on the weekend. Noted her in our preview. But it was actually John Burke, who the Texan coming over with Super Tune, that was able to come away with a pre-final win. But in the final ended up being Connor Zilic, a familiar name we've seen throughout the year at the top of the X30 junior category. Zilic was able to win in coming back from school. So completely missed Friday practice, no practice whatsoever. So Saturday warm-up was his first time on track for the weekend. So kind of slowly made his way up through the fields, ended up P15 in qualifying because he was in the slow group for qualifying that they split up throughout the weekend, and worked his way up to the top spot, beating out Burke for the victory, with fellow junior rookie Brent Cruz third on the podium.
There you go, folks. No more bitching and complaining if you can't make practice on Friday. Connor Zilic says you don't need to do it. Just show up on Saturday. You'll be good.
Yep, and then I completely agree. We've talked about it many, many times, and I'm done telling everybody that. But we'll see how it goes. So Sunday moved over to it was actually John Burke's birthday. And John Burke was able to give himself a good birthday present by sweeping the entire round on Sunday. So Burke led from qualifying, able to win the pre-final. And Zilic jumped out to a big lead in the final, but a slight error and off-track incident took him out of the lead and then eventually out of the race. That allowed Burke to cruise off to victory, giving himself a big birthday present, turning 14 on the day. And then Matthew Christensen, who actually went from the CRG to the Tony Kart overnight, was able to drive up into the second spot, earning that over Kiffin Simpson in third.
That's an interesting move. When you sitting in the after the day, sitting in the under the easy up, and said, "Hey, so what do you want to do to the kart?" I want to run a different one. I want to change the chassis. All right.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting scenario. It seems to be that a lot of these kids are getting used to the OTK brand, and anytime they move away from it, they just can't handle it. And so I don't know if that was the case there, but it seemed like he had the same pace in qualifying, but race speed, he was a little bit better when you kind of compare the 2 days. But again, once you qualify up front, it helps out definitely, especially as we said at Ocala, where it's the Bristol of karting. So a lot of that has to, there's a lot of different scenarios, guys wrecking in front of you, able to make you move you up. So, who's to say, we don't know what he'll do for the remainder of the season. We'll have to wait and see.
Big day though for John Burke. I've had a chance to follow John, doing what I did last year, calling the Texas Pro Kart Challenge races. Here's a young guy that kind of flies under the radar to a certain extent. But moving over with Super Tune onto the Tony Kart, he's got a lot of talent. As you said, just turning 14 years of age. So could still have another full year of junior if he wanted to run. But good to see John kind of step out into the spotlight. I think now leading the points based on your notes. Good to see him, again, step into the spotlight, rather, at the USPKS. Definitely a talented young driver from Texas.
Yep, so Burke's going to leave the weekend, or was able to take the $2,500 cash for earning most points on the weekend. Kiffin Simpson ended up second, and he's 83 points back of Burke, with Brent Cruz sitting there in third, 91 points back. Interesting.
Again, you're looking at the results there, David. You talked about the fact we had 6 different drivers on the podium in X30 Pro, 5 different drivers, I believe, on the podium in X30 Junior. Like, just no one really able, other than Burke, of course, first and second, but no one really able to come out and match it up again. That's interesting.
Yeah, Zillage definitely would have had the victory had it not be for the dirt that he hit on the racetrack, and that sent him off. So you would have had 2 drivers probably back-to-back 1-2s. Again, but behind them, it was really a great battle. Cruz was right there racing for third, but it ended up being Kiffin Simpson to take that spot. So again, Cruz is going to be one to watch. So we'll see, and then we'll see if Simpson can step it up and land on the podium both weekends or both days in GoPro.
All right, let's move to KA100 Senior. We've got both X30 Pro and X30 Junior in the books. Again, this is the 46th episode of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his review of the opening round of the USPKS, the Southern Grand Prix from Ocala. David, let's go into KA100 Senior, then we'll move to KA100 Junior before our final break of the show.
Well, coming into the weekend, we knew it was going to be some new players kind of fighting for the top spots, and it ended up with Zach Hollingshead, the champion, staying over at X30 Senior, and then TJ Coyne moving over as well, too. So we knew we were going to see some new names, and one of them was Julia Booz. I know you saw her at the SCUSA Winter Series racing in the KA100 Senior category there. She set the tone early, setting fast time in qualifying, and then Comet Kart sales driver Matthew Maccabee actually winning a pre-final. But that was one of the races that was waiting. It was the last final of the day, and they actually got moved to be the first race on track after the rain. And mind you, again, I told you, it was sunny while raining. Yeah. So when they gave the 15-minute warning for their main event to go on, I was looking at it like, man, I would almost go out on on dry tires.
Did anybody?
But they made it mandatory for rain because of the rainy conditions. And believe me, the first couple of laps, it was slick. But with that summer, that sun beating down and the warm temperatures, by about the halfway point, we started seeing a dry line forming. And those tires were pretty much gone. But Josh Holtz was able to manage the wet and the dry, and walk away to a great big victory, earning his first USPKS victory. Jack Dorsey charged up from about mid-pack to end up second. It was another great driver in the rain. And then Emery Lida was third on the podium. It was actually Blake Hunt that was running second, but a pushback bumper penalty dropped him from second to fourth, taking him off the podium.
So on Sunday, again, I'm just kind of working off your notes as well. You're the quarterback here, but Julia Booz, again, quick out of the box. Very impressive.
Yeah, she was very quick throughout the weekend. Again, that rain probably dampened her hopes at landing on the podium on Saturday. Sunday was kind of the same thing. She was quick in qualifying, but kind of slipped back a little bit in the pre-final. It was actually Blake Hunt coming through and scoring the victory. And then in the final, another, different driver ending up with a checkered flag. This time it was Colton Ramsey, who put in a dominant performance, able to get by Blake Hunt early on, and then just kind of put down the consistent laps to secure victory over Hunt. And then veteran Adam Kreppen ended up standing on the podium in third because Booz, who ended up crossing the line in third, had a pushback bumper penalty, and that dropped her from third to fifth.
Hold on, looking at your notes. Do we have 6 different people on the podium again?
That's correct.
Holtz, Dorsey, Lyda, Ramsey, Hunt, Kreppen.
Well, not to mention each day a different driver leading the each session. So it was, again, the KA category is a very competitive division.
No doubt about it. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So when they calculated the points again, this was not one of the cash prizes, but looking ahead to GoPro, Blake Hunt leads the championship standings over Colton Ramsey by 26 points, with Josh Holtz sitting there 36 points back in third.
Pretty impressive. And as you say, the KA 100 senior class, just a lot of great talent. You'll get the guys that are kind of more national guys, but and then your regionals, you get a couple locals come in. Just such a great package. 100cc stuff, I'm really excited about, having driven it myself this last weekend. I think it's going to be a really, really great addition to national, regional, and club karting all over the U.S. Dave, let's wrap up this particular segment of your race report and jump on into KA 100 Junior.
So I'm going to jump the gun on you. Again, we got 6 different drivers on the podium for the weekend.
It's the first thing I did when I looked down real briefly. I'm like, all right, let's talk about that. 6 again.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, 3 different drivers finishing Saturday in the P1 position. Brent Cruz set fast time in qualifying, but was beaten by Dylan Christie in the pre-final. And again, the storm hit as these guys were on track for their main event. So they were pulled off the racetrack with about 7 laps to go, or 8 or 9 laps to go, or into the race. So they were pulled off track. KA 100 Senior went on track for their main events, and as I said, the track dried out by the time they were done. So all the KA 100 Junior guys, they just kind of sat around wondering, okay, do we go wet to dry or dry to wet? And so they actually ended up all going out on dry tires. And it was Jeremy Fletcher who was able to charge up through the field and score his first USPKS victory in the category, beating out Connor Zillage and Nikita Johnson.
Anytime you get that kind of a red flag thing, right, where you're waiting and then you're not quite sure what to do, I always think it kind of plays into the heads of the drivers a little bit, especially if there's any uncertainty in what the track's going to be like when you head on track. But as you said, with the weather in Florida, how it's able to dry things up pretty quickly, Jeremy Fletcher coming to the front, impressive for him. Now, how about on Sunday? Give us the Sunday update.
Well, Cruz actually was supposed to be on the podium on Saturday, but 2 spots for avoidable contact took him out of second place. But Cruz really bounced back on Sunday, making sure it was him and only him at the top as he swept the round. It was actually him leading and qualifying in the pre-final, and then was a pretty good race in the main event. But he was able to get away from both Dylan Christie and Kiffin Simpson to secure the top spot. So Christie and Simpson ended up battling for second all the way until the final corner when the 2 made contact going into the last corner. Zillage was right there trailing both drivers, got a little piece of contact through the incident and was able to cross the line in second, but the contact pushed back the bumper and that put him down into the 6th spot, thus moving Tyler Wettendale into the 2nd spot, and then Lucas Smolik on the Merlin in 3rd.
That's always tough. We all see the value and the results of the pushback bumper in terms of cleaner starts and just cleaner racing, but it's always tough if you're involved in an incident, really not if you're doing it, it pushes the bumper back. Not really much you can do at that point, correct?
Yeah, again, I'm not sure if they protested it or not. I don't believe that category was protested because I've seen it before where, guys have protested that the incident that caused the pushback was not, avoidable contact. So, who's to say what happened? But again, I saw the onboard. It was a hard hit, and there's no doubt about that. It pushed back his bumper, or would have pushed back anybody's bumper.
How's the points lineup look now after those first 2 races in KA 100 Junior?
So Cruz should have had 2 podiums, but only had the 1, but it was a victory, and that kind of helped him propel him to the top spot as he leads by 61 points over Zillage. with Wettengale sitting there in third with 82 points back. So it's going to set up because all three drivers call GoPro their home track. And so
Right.
that should be a pretty good battle throughout the weekend. Elbows
up for sure, folks, when they get to GoPro Motorplex for the third and fourth rounds of the USPKS Series here in 2019. We got 4 down, 3 more categories still to come as David will continue with our race report brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. Stick with us, more to come here on the EKN Radio Network.
Looking for that extra edge? Comet Racing Engines is your answer. The engine service program from Comet Kart Sales has been winning from coast to coast at all levels and different forms of the sport. Lead engine builders Mark Harrison and Gary Lawson have decades of karting experience, providing racers the power to reach the top step of the podium. Comet Racing Engines continually perform track and dyno tests to provide their customers with the cutting edge in engine performance. Comet specializes in Yamaha KT100, IAME Swift, IAME X30, IAME Leopard, and Rock engines. Trackside and customer support are the cornerstones of the Comet Racing Engines business, ensuring each and every customer receives personal attention and the help they need to achieve the best results. Engine rentals are available at all the events that Comet attends in 2018, including WKA, SCUSA, USPKS, and the Route 66 Sprint Series. Contact the Comet team today at cometkartsales.com or by calling 317-462-3413. If you're looking to step up your engine program, send it to Comet Racing Engines.
If clean racing, fair competition, and tons of fun is what you're looking for in a racing program, then look no further than the United States Pro Kart Series. MG Tires and IAME USA East have teamed up to present the 7th edition of the USPKS, and it just keeps on getting better. USPKS just wrapped up the first event of 2019, and it was a blowout success. The Southern GP in Ocala was one of our biggest and best events ever, setting the stage for another banner year. The 2019 USPKS once again takes its racers to top karting venues like Ocala Grand Prix, GoPro Motorplex, and Newcastle Motorsports Park. If stacked fields, cash prizes, and tons of laps is what you're after, then USPKS is where you want to be. If you'd like to join the party in Mooresville or Newcastle, check out our website at uspks.com. Move up to karting, move up to USPKS.
Welcome back to episode number 46 of the EKN Debrief. My name is Rob Howden. David Cole giving us his report from the opening rounds of the United States Pro Kart Series, the Southern Grand Prix in Ocala, Florida. David, we've got things done with KA100 Junior and Senior. We've done the X30 Pro and X30 Junior classes. Each category taking home, the winner taking home $2,500 on the X30 Junior and Senior. Let's jump now into X30 Master, Mini Swift, and Micro Swift. Again, the race report today brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. Again, 15 drivers, I think you said, in the X30 Masters category. How did things roll out?
It was pretty much a 2-driver battle throughout the weekend, and one of them being new Masters driver David Galawina, a driver that we typically see actually has a garage at Newcastle. So when we're up there in the Champions Club, every time I go down to take photos, their garage is right there, and they're always outside working on the karts. And so it was good to see him. And what he did was race both X30 Master and X30 Pro. So this guy was at it double duty. And wow. I mean, it was amazing to watch because he ran the same pace that he ran in Masters in the X30 Pro, which again, was about, battling for about 20th, but to be able to go around all weekend long at Ocala to do double duty is pretty stout accomplishment.
Yeah, it is. Track will beat you up.
Yeah. So David was a good surprise to the field and set the tone in qualifying, posting fast lap. But local driver and national ranked Masters driver Scott Roberts was able to edge him out for the pre-final win. The two kind of went at it again in the final, but this time it was David scoring the victory in his inaugural X30 Masters debut, beating out Roberts to the line with Danny Robertson finishing in third.
Overall, one of the things about X30 Masters, depending on the race you're at, but normally some pretty good camaraderie. Was the racing hardcore? Were they going at it, or were they giving each other room?
It was pretty gentlemanlike, yeah.
Okay,
Nothing, yeah. There was never really too many issues on track, that I noticed, whether it be out front or in the back. So it was pretty gentlemanlike throughout the weekend for the category, which you want to see. And again, Robertson, who are good friends and good competitors, were there to greet Tim Coyen at the podium with big hugs to land on the podium, which was something we saw last year at the championship celebration there in Newcastle when they both ended up there, and it's something we saw again Saturday night to end the day.
So, making the transition from Saturday to Sunday, which I think is always key, right? You see the drivers that do well on Saturday, or maybe rise to the occasion on Sunday. You make that adjustment overnight. You try to figure out what exactly it is you want to change, come out with a little better platform, a little better setup for Sunday. That's always key. And based on your notes, it seems to me like Scott Roberts got the job done qualifying on the pole and then going to win the pre-final as well.
Yeah, Roberts was right there at the front again, and Galawina was right there too, putting the pressure on both in qualifying and the pre-final. So the two started on the front row for their main event, but something happened to Roberts there on the opening lap of the final, which dropped him to the tail of the field as they came around. Luckily, he was able to get going in, so I'm not quite sure if it was just something electrical or if he just kind of got offline and got the marbles on his tires and couldn't get going again until a couple of corners later. Whatever it was, he fell to the tail of the field, but ended up driving his way back up to sixth. But at the same time, David had a struggle as well, and that allowed Robertson to jump from third to first and basically go wire to wire for the victory in his first USPKS triumph.
Nice job for Danny Robertson grabbing that first win. I see in your notes Darren Marcus as well, veteran driver, coming up into the second spot. I think Darren will probably be in the hunt for the USPS crown before it's all over too.
Yeah, the Newcastle winner last year definitely was looked at as one of the top contenders going into the weekend. It wasn't quite there on Saturday, but as you said, sometimes overnight you find a little bit of pace, and Marcus was one of those as he was able to get up to second following Robertson on that opening lap and then hold the position to the checkered flag.
So bottom line is, we expect Scott Roberts to be fast. As you said, Danny Robertson grabbing his first win. We know Marcus is going to be quick, but when you look at the points, let's throw this new name right into the X30 Masters Championship hunt in David Galawina. That's I like seeing a new name in there.
Yeah, Galawina is going to lead the championship going into GoPro with Robertson sitting there in second, 29 points back, with Scott Roberts sitting in third, 40 points back. So again, nothing out of the nothing. Roberts still in it, and so is Marcus. So is a number of the others, depending on what happens in GoPro.
And with no drops, as you said earlier, you confirmed that all it takes is somebody to have one rough race, and it kind of changes everything. Moving now to Mini Swift, David, I would have to say, based on what I saw, of course, in Florida and what we saw at the SCUSA Winter Series, and of course the SCUSA Winter Nationals as well, one of the drivers to beat in Mini Swift here in 2019 is going to be Kai Sorensen. It looks to me like he came out of the box pretty strongly, Kala as well. For
sure. Sorensen, as we mentioned in a number of the other debriefs, is in his third year as a Mini Swift driver, so definitely has the experience, the momentum, and especially earning both the Florida Winter Tour and SCUSA Winter Series championships. Definitely has the momentum. So definitely one to watch throughout the weekend, and just swept the opening round to cement his name towards defending the Mini Swift championship that he earned last year. The final was again him up front. The Super Tune guys, there was a bunch, three of them up front, but it was really Michael Costella who was able to jump up ahead and grab the second spot to kind of break up their group, moving Anderson Leonard back to the third position.
Overall, anything big? Did anybody come from the tail of the field? Any kind of cool stories happening in the opening race?
Yeah, there's something to do with flat tires on the weekend. And
you mentioned that earlier, yeah.
Christian Miles was one of the victims as well too. Had a flat tire in qualifying, was able to only record the 20th quickest time in that session, but really muscled his way through the field, both in the pre-final and final. Was really fighting for one of the podium positions there at the end, but ended up finishing fourth.
I find it very interesting. We in everything, as you've gone through these categories, we're just seeing so many different drivers kind of step up on, the next day, or we're seeing, like you said, a number of these categories, 6 different drivers taking the 6 spots on the podium over Saturday and Sunday. And it seems to me like on Sunday, another driver kind of stepping up, Jorge Ortiz, the driver who kind of come to the spotlight in Mini Swift on Sunday.
Yeah, Ortiz was among those guys that were near the front on Saturday, but just wasn't able to quite get onto the podium. But he, along with his Supertune teammates Sorensen and Leonard, really kind of dominated the day. Ortiz was really fighting with Sorensen for much of the day, but Ortiz was able to sweep the day, earning maximum points towards the championship, and beat out Leonard and Sorensen for a 1-2-3 finish.
Overall, pretty solid run for the guys to get the season off to a good start. Sorensen, as you said, he's just everything kind of going his way. And in that 3rd year of Mini Swift, and David, we speak of this often, that we like to see drivers staying as long as they can in a race group, because they get a chance to learn how to win. They get a chance to learn how to run for championships, as opposed to jumping up into the next class because you want to be the youngest guy in the class. Sorensen, as you said, already a Florida Winter Tour champion, already a SCUSA Winter Series champion, right up there in the hunt. I'm not sure if he's actually leading in the SCUSA Pro Tour right now, but then also leading here in the championship in Mini Swift. Overall, 40-point lead over Leonard. Sorensen off to just bottom line, a tremendous start to the 2019 season.
It was a tremendous start for him, and we're probably going to see a lot more of them throughout the season. And it was just to kind of go back to the Sunday main event. Miguel Costa and Christian Miles were right there. It just didn't seem like they could break up that Supertune group. And as we've seen in the past before, guys working together, when you even though the guy might not be your teammate, it's almost better to kind of work with him rather than fight against him, to kind of go up against the other team. So that's one thing we're going to have to gauge as the series goes on.
Yeah, when you're battling against 3 drivers up front working together, it doesn't matter what the chassis is from the guy beside you. It's like that, it's the rest versus them. You know what I mean? You got to team up with whoever you can. David, let's wrap up the race report. Again, brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. Let's cap things off with your review of Microswift.
Well, the driver to beat has shown to be Spencer Conrad. Conrad is coming off some victories at WK competition and came into the weekend and won both main events. Saturday was Conrad on top in qualifying, but it was Ayrton Grimm who grabbed the pre-final win. But Conrad fought back in the final and drove up to score the victory and run away with it over Carson Waters, and Grimm ending up in 3rd. Sunday it was Jack. Again, I can never say his name. Iliff. Yes. It just looks funny when I see it, and I just don't know how to say it.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. I stumbled over it when I first started
now, but every time I look at it, it's one of those things. So Iliff was really strong on Sunday, setting fast time in qualifying and winning the pre-final, but just struggled just a little bit and actually ended up falling down to 8th spot in the main event. But it was Conrad coming up and scoring the victory. Waters ended up finishing 2nd, with Grimm once again in 3rd.
So Conrad with the point lead, 34 over Walters, and Grimm now in the 3rd spot. All in all, are you happy with the Microswift field? Do you think, is there like a group of just 5 that have kind of stepped up, or do you think there's deeper talent that we'll be able to challenge when we get to GoPro?
Well, Iliff being back in 8th, so I think you look at it, there's probably 8 drivers there at least that can contend for podium positions. I think that's the great thing about the Microswift category this year, is there's a lot of new names and new drivers that we haven't really seen towards the front. Conrad's kind of a new name. Grimm's kind of in his 2nd year, I believe, now in the micro category, so he's now contending for podiums. Carson Waters, she's shown that she's going to be there to challenge as well. and a number of other different names and drivers that have graduated from the kid kart categories as well.
David giving us the full race report of the 7 categories involved in the USPKS. Of course, they launched their 2019 season. We will, at the end of this podcast, of course, do a wrap up. David will have a look at the Constructors Championship breakdown, and we'll do a little preview of the second event, third and fourth rounds, which are in mid-June. But right now, David, let's have a look at our EKN Trackside Live race calendar, where you and I are going to be over the next little while. This particular edition of the race calendar presented by Cometic Gaskets. Cometic Gaskets are a leader in the performance gasket market by collaborating with engine builders such as Roush Yates Engines and ECR for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Cometic's cutting-edge gasket technology has then been applied to the Burris Cup Series as a spec gasket, and from there to the entire gasket line for the karting market, including both 2- and 4-cycle engines. Cometic offers the latest and most complete line of gaskets for today's performance-minded karter. Visit Cometic.com for our complete line of karting gaskets. Custom build? No problem. Give us a call at 440-354-0777, and we can help. David, in some of our last debriefs, you and I have been going through a long list of races that we've been going to in the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. You and I, after finishing up the dual weekend double-double, we can take a deep breath, calm down a second, because essentially, it's April 11th right now. We're looking at essentially 3 weekends at home, in the office, getting work done. Next event on our schedule, May the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals. We head back to essentially to LA, Utah for Utah Motorsports Complex. They're calling it IRTA, Utah now. But that's our next race. We get a little time, spring cleaning, reset, get caught up on all the editorial we've got kind of in the hopper and in the queue, getting ready to go. But otherwise, it's the first weekend of May. Our next race is part of the EKN Trackside Live Tour presented by Cooper Tires for 2019.
Does spring cleaning include snow on the ground? Because I woke up this morning to snow on the ground, and there's a dusting
here as well.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy how we live in this northern hemisphere type weather, and it's just
crazy. Or why do we live in the northern hemisphere? We're not in the northern climes. Let's not say hemisphere, otherwise you're living down South America. But no, there's other places we could live that wouldn't have snow in the middle of April.
Yeah, I'm just hoping we don't have snow in Utah. I mean, we're probably going to see it in the mountains for sure. Yeah, I'm going to guess because if we keep getting these polar vortexes and winter storm warnings right now, and if they continue on into next week, I think we might see some snow in the mountains, which would be pretty cool for photos.
I'm just going to say, if it happens, I'm calling Terry Bybee, and we're going to go skiing at Snowbird on Monday. That's what I'm going to do. Me and Bybee are going skiing.
Well, there could still be enough snow for skiing, that's for sure.
There will be. There'll be a little bit for sure. It's early May. There's going to be a little. It won't be great skiing, but I'm sure maybe me and Bybee will have to go out on Monday. We'll see. Because I go straight from SCUSA right to the IndyCar race at Indianapolis, so I'm not going home. I'm staying right there. It doesn't look as busy for you here. For me, of course, I've all the stuff that's happening in Indianapolis with the 500 qualifying and the IndyCar Grand Prix to start it off. But otherwise, David, you'll get a couple of weeks break, and then you're back at it with the WK Manufacturers Cup. You're heading to Road America, which is cool, May 17th, 18th, 19th.
Yeah, yep, a weekend in between to kind of regroup and refresh and enjoy some baseball with the kids. But, heading back to Road America, looking forward to getting back there, wondering what the new pavement that they laid down last year is going to how that's going to treat the competitors. I'm sure the racing is going to be fast and furious, but just to be back to Elkhart Lake is going to be pretty exciting.
It'll be you and I together. I'll be on the mic at the SCUSA Spring Nationals at SeaTech Manufacturing Motorplex, the name of the track at Road America in Elkhart Lake. You'll be back with Eric Brennan for that one. And yeah, you know what? I guess really that's the primary kind of talking point coming in, right? What's the repave going to look like? How's it going to affect the racing? And I got to think that a lot of guys are going to say, "Hey, I want to get back to Road America." I'm hoping they get a pretty good turnout there.
I would think the local contingent will be there for sure. This being kind of the early season races, club races are just getting going, so it's a great way to kind of kind of energize and get your season off to a good start. Should you perform well at the WKI race, so we'll see what kind of numbers it draws. But just going back to Road America is a great feat.
Just over a month away, folks, the WK Manufacturers Cup, getting back at it up at Road America. That is your EKN Trackside Live race calendar presented by Cometic Gasket. All right, David, let's wrap up this edition of the debrief as we always do. Let's have a look at the Constructors' Championship breakdown. Over the last number of debrief reviews we've done, we've seen a ton of different chassis really kind of step up and kind of take over a little bit. This particular one, kind of a little more of what we've seen over the last number of years. 8 different brands scoring wins, but Tony Kart coming out pretty strongly at Ocala.
Well, Tony Kart is a very popular chassis at the Ocala Grand Prix facility. The team there, obviously being a Tony Kart dealer and longtime team utilizing the OTK brand. So it was no surprise that we saw a lot of Tony Karts winning. Tony Kart was able to win both races in the Mini Swift category, along with the not X30 Master. So an X30 Master win, X30 Junior win, and I'm trying to think of the other category it won, but definitely it was no stranger to see that brand win.
Nitro Kart, again, a couple of wins. As you said, they did well. CRG with one, Kart Republic knocking out one, Merlin Nation grabbing one, Comp Kart with a win, TB Kart with a win, and Xpree as well. One of the other OTK products getting one victory as well. But yeah, just the one, just two really going double digit, but only one chassis brand really knocking out more than a handful.
Yeah, again, like I said, it's no surprise that we saw that with Tony Kart. I think there was a number of different brands that we saw on the podium, so at least we had that in terms of diversity with the number of brands doing that. But again, no surprise to see Tony Kart on top, and then when we go to GoPro, we'll see what happens with that. I think we'll see a little bit more of a shakeup in the brands winning there.
It's interesting you say that because I was thinking the same thing. When you go to different tracks, there's obviously different pockets of drivers who run different chassis, who run well at different racetracks. And you're right, you'll very likely see a different spec. We may even go back and compare what we saw at Ocala to what we end up seeing at GoPro when you're back in mid-June. Let's preview that mid-June event, David, a little bit. Give us some information on what you think you're going to see when the Carolina Grand Prix presents rounds number 3 and 4.
Yeah, June 14, 15, and 16 weekend is when the United States Pro Kart Series will get back into action, as you said, with the Carolina Grand Prix at GoPro Motorplex, traveling back to Mooresville, North Carolina, a favorite destination for us. I know you haven't been there a couple of years, but I like heading there. Last year, we saw 138 drivers or entries last year at the event. So that's obviously less than what we saw at Ocala. So I'm thinking we should be able to match the Ocala number or even surpass it with the, having the series regulars being there, and also the number of locals that GoPro has at their karting challenge throughout the season as well too.
Now, I know that you had mentioned, and looking at your notes here, are they going to kind of roll a golf tournament out this particular event, or what? I like that idea.
They had one last year, and I'm trying to think. I'm thinking it was on a Wednesday. It could have been on a Thursday, but I'm not quite sure. And they talked about bringing it back again this year as well. So set your calendars for that week, and it'll probably. I'm not sure if they're going to have it Thursday or Wednesday. We'll see what happens when they release more details on that.
Just follow us on ekartingnews.com, folks. When they release the news, we'll make sure we get it out both on the website and through all of our social media channels. If you're not following us, do so immediately. Get on Facebook, Twitter. We do a lot of stuff on Instagram these days as well, the Instagram story, the main feed. Facebook, make sure to have us on Facebook because, again, I did another one of our live Q&As after the race out and challenge of the Americas. So, David and I will do very likely a Saturday and Sunday live Facebook Q&A from the SCUSA Spring Nationals in Utah when we're there on the opening round, or rather the opening weekend of May. Otherwise, David, we've wrapped things up here for episode number 46. Any final words? Maybe a look back at what you thought, or at least maybe a grade or whatever, of what you thought the USPKS opener was like. Seems to me, based on your notes, just a really, really good weekend and the numbers you want to see when you launch a program again. Good start for 2019.
It was a great weekend for just racing in general. Mark Coates is really excited about what they have going on, thanks to the support with MG Tires and IAMA USA East. They're all pretty happy with the numbers that came out for the opening event, and they think it's moving back in the right direction, and that's good for the sport. And we'll see if in 3 weeks we're going to get rain again.
We probably will. I hope not. What about the vibe there, Dave? Was it good vibe? Good atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, you have your barbecue Friday evening as they always do. So it was definitely the warmer temperatures kind of kept people, trying to stay out of the sun. So everybody was either in their tents or in the RV getting cooled down. So, but again, people were there late Saturday because, obviously we had the rain delay, but people were there enjoying themselves and barbecuing and grilling and having a good time.
I like that.
Again, that's what you want to see in the sport.
Folks, there it is. Episode number 46 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his review of the opening round of the 2019 United States Pro Kart Series. It was the Southern Grand Prix down in Ocala, Florida. And as David told us, great numbers, 162 in total. Some really tremendous racing with some different podiums in a number of the categories. All in all, a tremendous start to the season for the USPKS. Again, David Cole and I looking for a little time here at home in the office, getting work done, getting caught up. We're back at it with our next EKN Trackside Live event, May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals in Utah. We hope that you tune in and join us when we get out to the Utah Motorsports Campus for what should be a tremendous weekend of racing. And again, hopefully we'll cross our fingers, even though David Cole will be there, no rain. Folks, thanks for joining us here on the EKN Radio Network. We appreciate it. Once again, if you haven't downloaded the app to your mobile device, you can do that in iTunes or Google Play. Make sure you follow all the podcasts as well. On our social media, we let you know when we have new podcasts posted up. Always the first opportunity to listen to the content is streaming on the EKN Radio Network. Then after that, a couple days later, David turns it into podcast form. As long as you're subscribing, you're going to get that podcast when it downloads to your iTunes, whatever you use. So, again, folks, thank you so much for supporting us here at the EKN Radio Network and ekartingnews.com. We certainly appreciate it. On behalf of David Cole, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.